In early September 2025, the USS Mason, a U.S. Navy guided missile destroyer, was patrolling international waters in the Caribbean as part of routine counter-narcotics operations. These missions are designed to intercept drug trafficking vessels and prevent illegal shipments from reaching the United States. However, what seemed like a routine patrol quickly turned into a high-risk confrontation. A Venezuelan go-fast boat, reportedly linked to the DARED cartel, aggressively approached the destroyer. Despite repeated warnings issued over radio channels and loudspeakers, the vessel continued to close the distance, creating a dangerous standoff. The situation escalated when the U.S. Navy made the decision to neutralize the threat, resulting in the destruction of the vessel and several casualties. This action immediately drew international attention, raising questions about sovereignty, legality, and the rules of engagement. It is important to understand the broader context of this confrontation. Venezuela has been under heavy international scrutiny due to political instability, economic collapse, and the increasing presence of criminal organizations operating within its borders. The DARED cartel, in particular, has grown into one of the most powerful criminal networks in Latin America. Its operations include drug trafficking, human smuggling, and violent enforcement measures. U.S. intelligence agencies have identified key members of the organization operating along the northern coast of Venezuela, making the Caribbean a critical hotspot for both drug interdiction and potential military encounters. Days before the incident with the go-fast boat, tensions between U.S. and Venezuelan forces were already rising. Venezuelan F-16 fighter jets conducted provocative low-altitude flyovers near U.S. Navy vessels operating in international waters. These maneuvers were not only intimidating but also strategically designed to test the response protocols of the U.S. Navy. The Pentagon described these actions as reckless and highly provocative, emphasizing the inherent risks to personnel and equipment. The United States responded by deploying 10 F-35 stealth fighter jets to Puerto Rico, significantly increasing its operational capabilities in the region. The deployment was intended to serve as both a deterrent and a rapid response measure in the event of further aggression. From a legal standpoint, the U.S. administration justified its actions under the doctrine of self-defense. By labeling the targeted group as a narco-terrorist organization, the government argued that preemptive measures were necessary to protect U.S. personnel and national security interests. Officials have repeatedly stressed that these operations are strictly defensive and aimed at curbing illegal trafficking networks that pose a threat to the United States and its allies. However, critics argue that the line between self-defense and aggression is increasingly blurred, raising questions about the interpretation of international law and the limits of military authority in foreign waters. Venezuela's response was swift and vociferous. The government denounced the U.S. strikes as a blatant violation of national sovereignty and international law. Venezuelan officials submitted formal complaints to the United Nations Security Council, asserting that the strikes were both illegal and morally indefensible. They argued that the vessels targeted were civilian in nature, and that the U.S. action amounted to extrajudicial execution. While these complaints garnered media attention, any meaningful intervention by the Security Council is unlikely, primarily due to the United States' veto power as a permanent member. This power dynamic highlights the limitations of international institutions in enforcing accountability when global superpowers are involved. The domestic implications within the United States were also significant. Admiral Alvin Halsey, the commander of U.S. Southern Command, which oversees military operations in Latin America and the Caribbean, announced his retirement effective December 2025. His decision was reportedly influenced by internal disagreements over the operational strategy in the Caribbean and the legal justifications for ongoing strikes against Venezuelan-linked assets. The timing of his departure underscores the complex interplay between military leadership, civilian oversight, and geopolitical strategy. This confrontation also reveals the technological and tactical capabilities of modern naval operations. The USS Mason is equipped with advanced radar, missile systems, and electronic countermeasures, allowing it to detect and respond to fast-moving threats at sea. The ability to identify potential threats in real time and neutralize them decisively is a testament to the training and professionalism of U.S. Navy personnel. However, the presence of civilian or semi-civilian vessels in conflict zones creates significant challenges, as misidentification or misjudgment can escalate tensions rapidly and have serious diplomatic consequences. Moreover, the political implications extend beyond Venezuela. Other nations in the Caribbean and Latin America are closely observing these developments, wary of the precedent that aggressive naval actions might set. The balance between enforcing international norms and respecting national sovereignty is delicate, and missteps can lead to wider regional instability. Analysts warn that if similar incidents continue, there could be a ripple effect, with more countries challenging U.S. naval presence in their territorial waters under the guise of protecting sovereignty. The economic aspect is equally important. The Caribbean is a critical corridor for global trade and shipping, with thousands of vessels traversing the region daily. Any escalation between military forces can disrupt commercial traffic, raise insurance premiums, and impact local economies dependent on maritime trade. This adds another layer of complexity to the situation, as nations must weigh military objectives against potential economic consequences and regional stability. The role of intelligence in this confrontation cannot be overstated. U.S. and allied intelligence agencies monitor Venezuelan operations closely, tracking the movement of suspected criminal networks, military assets, and logistical hubs. The ability to act on real-time intelligence allows the U.S. Navy to intervene effectively but also increases the stakes, as any misstep can escalate into an international crisis. The incident with the Go Fast boat demonstrates the fine line between proactive security measures and actions that could be perceived as violations of international law. Public perception plays a role as well. The Venezuelan government leveraged state media to portray the U.S. strikes as acts of imperialism, rallying domestic and regional support against perceived external aggression. Conversely, U.S. officials emphasized the necessity of protecting personnel and combating drug trafficking, framing the operation as a lawful and measured response. The contrasting narratives highlight the power of information and media in shaping public opinion and influencing diplomatic outcomes. The broader strategic implications of this confrontation are significant. The Caribbean Sea has historically been a zone of competition, from colonial powers to Cold War-era conflicts. Today, the area remains a theater for U.S. counter-narcotics efforts, humanitarian operations, and the projection of military power. Venezuela's aggressive posture reflects both domestic pressures and regional ambitions, signaling a willingness to challenge U.S. operations directly. The potential for miscalculation in such a tense environment is high, and both nations must navigate a path that minimizes the risk of full-scale confrontation. It is also essential to consider the human dimension. The crew of the USS Mason faced split-second decisions under immense pressure. Naval personnel must balance adherence to rules of engagement, protection of civilian life, and the defense of their ship and colleagues. Similarly, Venezuelan operators on the fast-moving vessel likely faced intense pressures from both government and criminal networks. These human factors highlight the complexity of modern military engagements, where technology, strategy, and human judgment intersect in life-or-death scenarios. Looking forward, the resolution of this confrontation will likely influence U.S. Venezuelan relations for years to come. Diplomatic channels are expected to remain tense, with both sides seeking to assert their positions without triggering a larger military conflict. International observers and regional organizations may play a role in monitoring future incidents, advocating for restraint, and encouraging dialogue to prevent escalation. In summary, the confrontation between the U.S. Navy and Venezuelan forces underscores the volatile nature of modern maritime security operations. It highlights the intersection of military strategy, international law, political considerations, and human judgment. The incident serves as a stark reminder that even routine operations in international waters can quickly escalate into international crises when multiple interests collide. The United States must continue balancing its counter-narcotics and national security objectives with the imperative to avoid unnecessary escalation. Venezuela, on the other hand, faces the challenge of asserting sovereignty while navigating the pressures of internal instability and international scrutiny. How both nations manage future encounters will significantly impact regional security, international law norms, and the broader geopolitical landscape in the Americas. As this story develops, we will continue monitoring events and providing detailed analyses to help you understand the complexities of modern naval confrontations. The Caribbean Sea remains a critical zone where international law, national security, and human lives intersect, and this incident is a compelling example of those dynamics in action. Thank you for joining us in this comprehensive review. Stay tuned for further updates and deeper insights into this evolving situation in the Caribbean. We will continue to break down the latest developments, analyze their implications, and provide context so you can understand the full picture behind the headlines.